Morning, dads. Welcome to the Team Super Dad podcast. Today, how do you trust your gut instinct and move forward? Roll theme.
Welcome to Team Super Dad. Real dads creating their best lives ever. More time, more money, more fun. You are not alone. You're on Team Super Dad.
Welcome, dads, to the Team Super Dad podcast. It's good to have you here. I'm outside. I have no idea how this is going. I have done a mic test and everything. I've got a house full of kids, sleepovers, and sleepovers. You got to let your kids do what they want. Well, not what they want completely, but you got to let your kids have a sleepover, right? So they got a house full of friends. Can we sleep in the lounge? Yeah, cool, sleep in the lounge. So despite the fact that it is the middle of summer, it is windy and rainy here. So anyway, I've got the mic on. I've got the little pop protector. So give me a little hello in the comments if you can hear me okay. If you are tuning in live on any of the socials, then you should be able to drop a comment and I'll see it across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We are here with the Team Super Dad crew, Team Super Dad and the Hero Academy. Modern dads, a community of powerful men living the life that we desire, not a life that we feel stuck in. And we do that by accessing the power code, connected to who we are and what we want, taking full responsibility and ownership for our mindset and our actions, doing the work, being organized, scheduling positive routines, engaging with the people that we love and trust, putting mentors and support and accountability around us, and most of all, number 5, having a shitload of fun whilst we do it. So if that's of any interest to you, come on over at teamsuperdad.com/group and get involved. We'll also invite you into the Hero Academy where you can get fully involved with all that we do. The wind has dropped. About 15 minutes ago, it was like sheet rain, pissing with rain. So today's theme, your gut instinct. How do you trust your gut instinct to move forward? Gut instinct. I did a reel about this the other week and it went pretty well. Gut instinct's a real thing. There is actually some science behind it, and I'm going to try and debunk or discuss or just bring to your attention some of that as we go through today. As usual, Team Super Dad podcast in these formats are about 20-25 minutes long, so I hope you can stay tuned. If you're watching on the replay, give us a hashtag replay. Good morning, Rob, good to see you here. And morning chap, I'm going to guess that's Chris Errington there as well, so good to have you here. We had the first not first ever, but the first in its new guise, the F5 accountability call yesterday. And so that's where all the guys involved with Team Super Dad and the Hero Academy, they come together on a Friday. We go through the F5 tracker and it sets an accountability for the week ahead, but it also looks at the week we've just had, acknowledges our wins, our challenges, and what we're grateful for. So really focusing the mind. And our gut instinct is also part of that. Interestingly, there is some science behind it, which I can tell you. I knew it was about the rational and the emotional mind. Turns out, gut instinct are largely driven by the brain's limbic system, which is responsible for our emotional life and a significant role in forming memories. It's the magic, right? The magic, if you're going to go with the science part of it, is that our gut instinct is the part where our brain realizes something, our limbic system realizes something moments before our rational brain, like our conscious brain, realizes it. So we see something, or we notice something, we sense something about an experience that we relate to something that we've experienced before, or we've seen before, or it's part of our memory. And so our body goes, or our brain goes, I know that, I've seen that before, it went well. Or I know that, I've seen that before, it didn't go well. So then our body goes, or ooh. Then our rational part of our body kicks in and goes, oh, that was interesting. I just felt something. It's like having a slightly slower brother or a best mate, who kind of only just tweaks, or they're like, oh, that's what we're talking about. They realize just a moment later, right? So when faced with a decision, this is the science, when faced with a decision, your brain quickly compares the current situation with past experiences, and if it finds a match, it will trigger an emotional response, which we often perceive as a gut feeling. Genius, right? So now we know it's a real thing, we can actually trust it better. There is a practice to it though, of course, right? If you don't use this, if you don't go with your hunches, if you don't tune into the idea that this could be a positive thing, I've experienced it before, how aligned is this with my values, what do I think of this person or this situation, where do we go from here? If you're not tuned into it, then it becomes like a reckless thing. It becomes like a, whoa, do we go for it, do we not go for it? Some of the benefits, a reason to trust your gut instinct, faster decision making, that is an absolute for certain. Race car drivers, fighter pilots, people are doing things at high speed, they're going to be relying on their gut instinct a great deal, right? Better reading people and situations, this is really important, especially when you're meeting people, you go into a room, you go into a networking event, or you meet someone for the first time in terms of business. I get this all the time when I'm speaking to a prospective member of the Team Superdad community, or someone I'm going to work with. I pretty much know straight away, like, this is a good guy, this is a pain in the ass, right? And that's not with judgment or any slight, but you know how much time you got in a week, you know the likelihood of a deal coming together. Problem solving, your creative juices, right? When you can lean into your gut instinct and allow your brain, really, right, allow it. If it's an emotional response, if you allow it to expand, then it's going to have a greater sphere of reference. If you close it down and be like, I'm not trusting that, I'm not doing that, well then guess what? It's kind of quite tight and bound up. In a strange way, you might not realize this is linked, but microdosing, not something I'm a huge expert on or necessarily advocating, but if you've taken drugs in your time, you'll know that the brain, the mind expands, and the things that you consider and perceive and relate to, you're like, oh, that we could do. So this whole process is trusting your gut. When you have faith in it, then it gives you a better confidence and trust in the process. It allows you to feel more connected with yourself, if I'm honest, right? And a couple of final ones here on this list here that I've made, right? Health and well-being, like stress and tension. When every decision relies on your rational brain, everything becomes very black and white. In fact, it actually becomes quite closed down. I'm not doing that because it's not safe. Boom, everything else is off the table. Well, sometimes things that aren't quite safe are the right thing to do. And again, if I use a driving experience, you'll know sometimes where you had to nip through a gap. Well, not nipping through the gap could have meant someone's going to smash up the back of you, or who knows whatever else. But so being able to go for it, right, is part of getting out of your comfort zone. And if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, if you're part of any of the work that we've done, that you'll know that getting out of your comfort zone is part of the R in the power code, the reward, the fun, the going to extremes, knowing yourself as a bigger, better person than the person you were yesterday. That is part of your well-being, because when you shrink and contract constantly, there's nowhere for you to go, nowhere for you to grow, right? If you're not taking risks, if you're not being bold, if you're not out there doing stuff in the world, then you're shrinking. Quite literally, you are shrinking. So your gut instinct is, we wouldn't have been given it, right? It wouldn't be part of the machine that we are as humans if it wasn't. in the comments, why does your neighbour have to do the weeding during your life? Well, funnily enough, I did not schedule this with with my neighbours. It's actually quite nice to be outside, having a coffee in the fresh air, kicking off the adaptogens by being outside. And if I'm lucky, the kids are doing some kind of tidy up indoors. I'm actually sitting on a carrier bag because this bench is so wet because it's been raining so hard. Hello to all our viewers in the south of Europe, where instead of getting pissed on in the rain, they're actually dying in 45-degree heat. So where was I? Yeah, gut instincts. So how can you practice this? How can you evolve? How can you grow your gut instinct, right? Well, there is a balance to it, okay? But you've got to swing out a little bit, right? Curiously, sport helps trust your gut instinct, because the decisions that you're having to make when you're playing sport, if a ball is coming at you at great speed, there's a part of your brain where you might have experienced this if you've gone and caught a ball, like someone throws you something and you catch it kind of over here, someone throws you some keys, generally that happens, doesn't it? It's like you kind of catch them over there. That is part of your gut instinct kicking in. It's the limbic system reacting along with your peripheral view, but it's like an instinctive thing where actually I know that, and I know where it's coming, I'm going to catch that. Quite often you might experience it when or certainly I'm relating this to these two things. Someone with a more scientific background might tell me I'm wrong, but I can't help but think, that time when you're a bit pissed and you go to play pool or you play darts and like the first couple of shots are brilliant, right? That's because the conscious you is not involved, okay? That's because the mechanical brain is taking charge there and just getting it done. Being clear for yourself, right, about your boundaries and red flags, like knowing who you are and what you stand for, not being clear on your goals and where you're headed. All of these things are part of the power code, right? When you have all that lined up, when you have let go of your fears and concerns, your blame and resentments, your resignation and hopelessness, when all those are let go, part of ownership, and you are clear about who you are, what you're capable of. I am dad, I am father, I am friend, I am coach, I am entrepreneur, I am business leader, I am firewalker, all this is part of the I am process. When you're really clear on that, when a situation comes up, what your limbic system will go to and refer to is I am strong, I am leader, I am coach. Okay, well, if that's the frame, that's the context, then do you make this choice? So your gut instinct becomes something you can tune into more confidently. It's when people live in a state of fear and anxiety, upset and resignation. And by the way, you don't have to be broken to be in that state, right? Anxiety comes to all people. A sense of failure and impending doom can come from challenges in our business. It can come from breakdowns in our relationship. That's why we have to be true to ourselves. That's why we can't keep living in a situation that we know is wrong, that is not congruent with our values, our goals, and our gut instinct. Like relationship's a good one here, okay, but perhaps business deal is right as well. Oh, I know one. When you're hiring someone, like you've gone through 100 CVs, you've had 10 interviews, you're down to the last 2, and the person you wanted says, oh, I've taken a different job, and you go with the second choice. And as you're doing it, you're thinking, I'm just not sure about this, but we're going to hire them anyway. 9 times out of 10, probably more so, that person will turn out to be, the one you shouldn't have hired. And the same in relationships, to be honest, whether it's a business partnership or your love interest. When you know it's not working out and you stick with it, you hope it can be fixed, you hope somewhere down the line, more often than not, you're like, do you know what? I knew this wasn't going to work out. I knew this wasn't going to be the outcome that I desired. And that is your gut instinct. So, one of the risks of not trusting your gut is that it creates something called a double bind. Again, I looked up the science of this, but there's a great video on YouTube of Tony Robbins, where he pulls someone out of the crowd, as he does with one of his interventions, and that was my impression of Tony Robbins. He double bind, so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, and that is where you really should be doing one thing, but you're just not sure. I can't do it. What if, right? It's a paralysis, and that kind of paralysis, that double bind, will impact on your mental health because you're stuck. Bit like an old record, if you remember back in those days, if there was a scratch on the record and it got stuck, it just went didick, 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 didick. Okay, indecision and overthinking. If you don't trust your gut instincts, we will often overanalyze a situation and become trapped in a cycle of indecisiveness. And that's no good for you. It's starting to rain hard again. And the more you're indecisive, that will crank up your stress and anxiety. And guess what? If your stress and anxiety is cranked up, then you're not going to be a very nice person to be around. If you're not a very nice person to be around, then that relationship gets drawn down into a spiral. You will be able to relate to all these things. The secrets of success are not that secret, as I always say. But the shit that we find ourselves in all too often is of our own doing. It's because we haven't made the decision we needed to make. It's because we didn't trust our gut or even the evidence on the table. We were caught in a sense of fear and what ifs and second chances. And then when that doesn't pan out, we end up in a spiral of regret and self-doubt, which all sounds a bit bleak. And you know what? Too many of us are living in that. Too many men are living in that. Successful, not successful, happy, broken, like it's kind of all the same. The number of men who are not living the life they desire and are pissed off about it is huge. And that is what Team Superdad is about. It's about putting an end to that, getting yourself up off the canvas, a Rocky Balboa. It's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And that's how winning is done. If you watch last week's live, you'll know that's what we focused on. So, trusting your gut is a habit. It's a practice. And if you take on board everything we've spoken about today, you'll realize how many situations you're stuck in. You're stuck in that double bind. You'll realize how many situations where you're not trusting your gut, where you're not operating in alignment with your values and goals. And then you can go into like, oh my gosh, actually I knew this. So start to notice that gut instinct more. It will generally happen around the gut. Guess what? Second brain down there in the gut. And when you understand the science of it, it's the machine of your body going, I know that, I've been here before, this would be the right way to go. Practice it, give it a blast, give it a go and see it, and let me know how some of the results that you're achieving. I am going to have to get going. It's going to rain really hard. So a quick click of brand and we get the outro up. Team Superdad, come on over to the Team Superdad group, teamsuperdad.com/group, and you can get in on the free community. And the next intake of the Hero Academy is happening. So go over to teamsuperdad.com/hero. You can find out all about that and get yourself involved. It's the new launch, new version, and you'll be mad to miss it. I can't wait to see you on the other side. Team Superdad out.
This has been Team Superdad. Find us at teamsuperdad.com. Join the program and create the best life ever for you and your children. You are not alone. You're on Team Superdad.